I think you're going to love this. Dutch psychologist Van Baren studied two groups of servers at a restaurant. One group was told to take orders and serve the food. The second group was told to take orders, recap the food order, and then serve the food. Here's an example of recapping a food order. Server says this: you want a Greek salad with chicken, no onions, and an Arnold Palmer. Did I get that right? Customer says, exactly. Now get this. When repeating the order back, tips almost doubled. Why is that? It turns out when people feel understood, we trust, like, and feel closer to them. There's a good lesson here for salespeople. Making prospects feel understood when they raise objections is a superpower for building trust and likability. Yet traditional sales techniques fight resistance. They use rebuttal scripts to try to overcome objections somehow. The problem is when people feel like they're being persuaded or talked into something or convinced, they enter what I call the zone of resistance. The zone of resistance is a reflex reaction to sales pressure. So here's what it sounds like to make prospects feel understood on a cold call. Salesperson might say something like this: hey, John, if you don't mind me asking, how are you currently editing your podcast? Are you using Adobe Audition or are you outsourcing it? Prospect: we're using Adobe Audition. We like it a lot. Now, the traditional sales technique might be to say something like, well, a lot of people felt that way, but what they found was X. Going to try to overcome it. But again, that puts people in the zone of resistance. Instead, you're going to validate or lean into what they said. That might sound like this: seems like everything is going well. Or you might say something like this: sounds like Adobe Audition is checking every single box. Or you might say something like this: seems like Audition is the perfect editor. It's rare to talk to someone who has such an easy time editing collaboratively. Good for you. Now, typically, when you say statements like these, you hear the prospect telling you why their solution isn't so perfect or so easy. From there, you can poke the bear. Poking the bear means you ask a question that gets the prospect to think differently about their current solution. Here's what that might sound like. As someone with a long and successful career editing podcasts, I'm curious to get your take. What do you think about the script? And then the prospect might say, what's that? What's the script? And then you might tell them a before and after story. Because when prospects ask what your product is, what they're secretly asking is, what can your product do for them? So here's what that might sound like. Prospect says, what's the script? And you might say this. Here's the before story. You know how that for every second you spend in the recording booth, you're going to spend 3 to 5 seconds editing, doing things like fixing mistakes, working through multiple takes, etc. And then the after. With the script, you make edits as you go, so when you walk out of the recording session, you have a finished product. From there, you could lower the zone of resistance even further by asking a question that requires little to no commitment. That might sound like this: if you'd like, I can send you a demo video so you can determine if you'd like to learn more. And the prospect will typically respond by saying something like, that's fine, but how does it work? And now they're leaning forward. See what you did here? You created an opening because you're not going for a closing. The lesson? Ditch the pitch. Don't fight the resistance. Join the resistance. Verbal Aikido.